Welcome, Warriors. Ever wondered what an alternate Street Fighter 2 world would be? Well, this is the series that answers that question, the Street Fighter EX series. So here is my view of them all. Let's get into it. At long last, Capcom has a 3D Street Fighter game deserving of its legacy. On the other hand, Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha might be too reliant on its past. It's hard to help but feel that SFEX Plus Alpha is only a stepping stone to a more remarkable Street Fighter game still to come, as was the case with Street Fighter Alpha, despite the gameplay being excellent and being normal SF stuff. At its core, Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha doesn't attempt to be anything more than a juggling and combo-filled game like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but with the play speed and graphic style of Namco's first Tekken game. Like Tekken, the animations of the characters, rather than their slightly jagged bodies or uninspired backgrounds, are supposed to be the stars of SFEX Plus Alpha's graphics. But unlike Tekken 3, absolutely no attempt is made to give the characters any freedom of 3D movement. Dizzies have been replaced with super meter-draining guard blocks that stun and leave opponents temporarily defenseless, and super combos now execute at only one level of power and can be interrupted or chained together to form bigger and more damaging combos. Lifted from Tekken is Namco's penchant for new characters whose only distinction from old characters is appearance. 9 of the 23 SFEX Plus Alpha characters mimic existing characters in some way. There is, however, a new and decided emphasis on offensive attacks. The previously defensive Guile, for example, does a lot more rushing forward with kicks than he did in earlier SF games, and even Ryu and Ken have had their standard rollback once with a kick button hurricane kick shifted into an Art of Fighting style multi-hit aerial kick. SFEX Plus Alpha is not a game for turtlers and not necessarily even a game for street purists. This is now less of a game of strategy than it is a game of action, without a doubt. To keep the game flowing, SFEX Plus Alpha has reasonably forgiving controls that ease the chaining together of combos and execution of special attacks. The CPU opponent puts up a decent struggle, but I found that the features that brought me back for more were the Expert mode, which lets you unlock 4 previously non-player characters and a few extra game options, and the bonus game, a polygonal version of the SF2 barrel smashing bonus stage. In the video and audio departments, Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha is pretty solid. Its old characters closely resemble their 2D predecessors. Zangief is the only negative exception, but lack the more dramatic flourishes that made SF2 and SF Alpha 2 so memorable. Some of the new characters seem to have picked out costumes from the Halloween leftover bins at a Japanese Kmart, but their unique moves often make their inclusion worthwhile. Special effects are generally handled well, but not spectacularly, and the flat backgrounds are reasonable but not as impressively conceived as those in Capcom's original SF2 or the later release of SF Alpha 2. The game does have its visual moments, though, with a few nice close-ups of multi-hit throws that bring to life scenes that we could only imagine in earlier SF titles, images that, in my mind, are the only real justification for SFEX Plus Alpha's existence. SFEX Plus Alpha's audio is quite good, full of pleasant, upbeat synthesized techno and rock music, plus a number of clear voice samples that are easily as good as those in any previous SF title. Samurai Showdown, Warrior's Rage was very unpleasant to play, so when I placed a final copy of Street Fighter EX2 Plus into my PlayStation, I felt somewhat vindicated as I saw it ravenously devour the binary goodness contained on the disc. I was somewhat prepared because I had already played the early iterations of Erica's 3D Street Fighter translation. Street Fighter EX Plus performed a superb job of taking a 2D fighter and maintaining nearly all of its components in a 3D universe, while also adding its own gameplay changes that fully accounted for the name change. So it was near reckless abandon that I tore into this version, and I'm happy to say it passed with flying colors. Capcom and Erica have released a sequel to the fighting game, EX Plus Alpha. The gameplay has been slightly improved, but the game largely maintains its original feel. The graphics and sound have been slightly improved, and the game has a solid feel. A few characters have been replaced, but classic Street Fighter characters are still present. The game has a trial mode that introduces players to the game's combo system and a director mode that allows players to direct their favorite fighter. The combo system of the EX series has not been changed. The new addition is the Excel mode, where a player can use up some of their combo gauge to launch into a mode where all of their attacks become more powerful. Guard Block, a move that stuns opponents, also returns to the game. It takes away from the combo meter, but can be used to open up the opponent for a combo finish. EX2, a 2D turned 3D fighter game, stands out among its counterparts due to its stunning graphics. Although the first game had nice-looking models, the sequel offers even smoother edges and textures that fit perfectly. The floors and backgrounds have also been improved, using interesting techniques to create seamless transitions and displaying more detail. The animations from the 2D games have been carried over into 3D, allowing for new moves that were not possible before. While the animations are not as beautiful or fluid as some of the 2D Street Fighters, they are still done well. Overall, the graphics in EX2 show a noticeable upswing in quality from its predecessor. Despite the improvements, there are still a few disappointments with the graphics. When executing high-flying combos, the background simply repeats horizontally, and some scenes are still rather boring. However, time was taken to ensure that the backgrounds were detailed enough to entertain those who choose to look behind the fighters. The sound effects in the EX2 game are decent, with clean, clear smacks and distinctive speech for each of the characters. However, the repeated use of certain catchphrases such as Hadouken can become tiresome after a while. Although the game doesn't benefit from the enhanced oral techniques used in the 2D games like Q-Sound, the overall sound effects are still good. The EX series music has always had a unique sound to it, which some players may find a little strange. The music is usually plucky and fits well with each level, but can be overly complex in areas that don't necessarily need it. While the music in EX2 is thicker and more well-rounded than the first game, it's not necessarily an improvement. Players who can tolerate the simplistic instruments and repetitive beats may find the music tolerable for extended play. Capcom Street Fighter EX series, developed by Erica, takes the standard Street Fighter 2D gameplay and throws it into a 3D world, adding a few new characters and moves along the way. The original Street Fighter EX fared pretty poorly in arcades, but after a few revisions it found a greater audience at home on the PlayStation. Street Fighter EX2 added a few new moves and characters, but it never really made much of a splash. Street Fighter EX3 takes the gameplay and additional moves of EX2, adds a tag team element similar to that of Tekken Tag Tournament or Capcom's own Marvel vs. Capcom, and drops it onto the PlayStation 2 for a quick and dirty fighting game that seems a little rushed, but still manages to be a lot of fun. In the original mode, you get to pick one character and embark on a short but sweet fighting quest. The battles are intense, with your first match pitting you against 3 competitors at the same time. As you progress through the 6-match quest, you'll have the opportunity to recruit up to 3 partners to help you win. The tag battles, team battles, and 2-on-1 match add an extra layer of challenge and excitement to the game. The ending credits serve as a bonus stage, where you get to beat up on generic fighters and rack up as many points as you can. With its various fighting modes, Street Fighter EX3 offers a vast array of options to suit any gamer's preferences. The Character Edit mode is a unique feature of Street Fighter EX3, where you get to create your own fighter from scratch. As you complete tasks and earn experience points, you can buy your fighter's special moves and super combos, turning them into a formidable opponent. Once you've beefed up your character, they'll be ready to take on the game's other modes and dominate the competition. Although the animation is the same as it was in EX2, the character graphics in EX3 are stunning. The game's audio portion is also top-notch, with great sound effects that make every hit and miss sound like it's happening in real life. The music, while not always fitting, is still enjoyable to listen to. Are these games any good? These are definitely good in my opinion. Most importantly, does it still make sense to play in the age of Street Fighter EX2 Plus and EX3? Compared to Street Fighter EX1, Street Fighter EX2 Plus boasts a more intricate fight system, more moves, and more characters. Nevertheless, several characters were also eliminated. From EX1 to EX2, all of Sakura, Akuma, Alan, Blair, the Cycloids, and the evil/bloody versions of Ryu and Hokuto are missing. Though Alan and Blair both make appearances in Fighting Layer and Fighting EX Layer, Sakura, Evil Ryu, and Bloody Hokuto do return in EX3, though Fexel I think is a much different game to the Street Fighter EX games, even ignoring the whole no Street Fighter characters deal. Akuma and the Cycloids do not make a reappearance at all. I'd probably recommend going with EX2 or EX3 over EX1, but if you enjoyed playing EX2 or EX3, I think it's worth it to at least check out the missing characters in EX1. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video of Played and Reviewed. Until next time.